for today's session. So once again, thank you all so much for coming today. And today we're going to be having a session with Ayush and Rahul, two rising freshmen in colleges in Berkeley and UCLA. So they're going to be presenting about their extracurriculars, their high school experience, and any tips they may have. So you guys go ahead.
Congratulations, Rahul.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Preet, do you want us to start or?
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and get started.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Rahul. I'll be going to UCLA next year.
And I'm Ayush. I'm currently going to UC Berkeley. My first day was August 17th.
And we were really close in high school, and we're still very close friends. And that's why we chose to do this session together, and we'll be sharing our high school experiences today.
Tell us which school you guys are from.
Yeah, we're both from American High.
Awesome.
Fremont Unified.
Congrats, both of you.
Thank you. So we want to focus on some different aspects today, one being the academic point of view, extracurricular point of view. And I think something that often gets overlooked in high school is also, like, I think, in my opinion, like the fun point of view, which is super important. And if you don't have fun throughout your high school experience at the end of your 4 years, you might regret it. But I guess we'll start off with maybe what all of you are expecting to hear today, which is academics and extracurriculars. So I'll start off with my academics, I guess. So I'm pursuing CS at UCLA. So I knew I wanted to do computer science. I was interested in coding prior to entering high school itself. So when I entered high school, I took courses engineering related and junior and senior year CS related as well. So one thing I did was the PLTW pathway, Project Lead the Way. I'm not sure if it's offered in all school districts, but it is offered at American High School, where you take Introduction to Engineering, Design IED, and Principles of Engineering POE. So I took IED freshman year, POE sophomore year. And then junior year, I took Computer Science, AP Computer Science Principles, and senior year, I took AP Computer Science A. So those are kind of the engineering, specifically engineering or CS related courses. Of course, math and science or STEM courses, but yeah. And then I think freshman and sophomore year, I don't want to go over to that too much. If you do have any specific questions, feel free to ask them. But I think freshman and sophomore year, everyone follows a similar pathway because you don't have too many elective choices. Where the road really opens up is junior and senior year, where there are a bunch of electives and everyone goes in a somewhat different path. And so junior year, so I took Spanish 1 in 7th grade. So I took Spanish 2 in 8th, Spanish 3 in 9th, and then AP Spanish I took in my sophomore year. So that allowed for me to take 6 APs in my junior year. I took AP Chemistry, AP Physics 1, AP English Language, AP US History, AP Computer Science Principles, and also AP Calculus BC. So those are the 6 APs that I took junior year. And then in my senior year, I took AP English Literature, AP Physics C, which comes after AP Physics 1. So AP Physics C included mechanics and electricity and magnetism. And then AP Physics C, AP English Literature, AP Computer Science A, and then AP Statistics, as well as, sorry, I'm forgetting who I had first period. I'll let you guys know when I remember. Yeah, I'll let you guys know when I remember. But yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I think maybe we'll focus on the time management a bit later about how, while taking oh yes, AP Government and AP Economics. So those were all the APs I took junior and senior year, and then sophomore year, AP Euro and AP European History, and also AP Spanish. So those were all the APs I took throughout. Some of you might be wondering, I think I saw in the chat a couple of days ago, like 5 or 6 APs. How do you handle those with extracurriculars and maybe some other commitments that you might have? And I think we'll get into time management a bit later. Here's purely focusing on the academic standpoint. And yeah, I think I'll let Ayush go for me.
Okay. So I'm studying mechanical engineering at UC Berkeley, and I took many of the same courses as Rahul. Our high school didn't really offer any like crazy engineering courses. I think freshman year, same as Rahul, we took IED, Intro to Engineering and Design. Then sophomore year, I did not take POE because they took out zero period and I needed to choose between Spanish 2 or IED, or sorry, not IED, POE. And I just needed Spanish, so I ended up skipping POE. And then in my junior year, I took AP Chem, AP English, AP Physics, AP US History, Pre-Calc and Spanish 3. And since I couldn't fit CSP into my schedule at like American high school, I ended up taking it outside at Elite Open School. And there I got like a official transcript, and that's what I submitted along with my high school transcript. And then finally in senior year, I took AP Spanish, AP Gov/ and AP Economics, AP Calc AB, AP CSA, AP English, and AP Physics C, both magnetism and or electricity and magnetism and mechanics. And then there I did a very similar thing where I didn't get to take AP Calculus BC. So I ended up taking that outside of school, and also AP Statistics, which I was unable to fit in my schedule. I took that outside of school too. And then I think one thing I learned from that is you don't necessarily have to take the hardest courses right away. Like in 9th grade, I took regular English. In 10th grade, I took English and honors. And then 11th and 12th, I took AP. So it's not like I was in the highest level of English all 4 years. I think what's more important is the improvement you show over the years.
Completely agreed. And then, yeah, wait, Preet, do we want to do it where we do academics, answer questions about academics, or do everything and then answer at the end?
We can do everything first and then answer questions at the end.
Okay.
Wait, because who are you talking about? Me or Rahul? Or both?
Both, just go with
Both.
both.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, AP course in 9th grade, American high school doesn't offer any AP courses in 9th grade to take at school. However, something I did was I self-studied AP Computer Science A in freshman year. I didn't take it at any academic school or anything. Like I didn't go to Elite. I just bought the prep book and my brother helped me study for the most part. And then I took just the AP exam in the month of May. So I do not recommend doing that at all. Simply because the AP scores at the end of the day don't matter that much. And so there's some exams that do matter, and we'll let you know which ones those are. For example, in my opinion, calculus matters a lot. But see, computer science A, most colleges don't offer credit for that, even if you get a 5. So not just me self-studying, but that also did not show up on my transcript because I self-studied at home. If you did something like what Ayush did, where he goes to Elite and he can get a transcript from them and that boosts his UC GPA. I didn't do that. I just self-study at my home. I definitely don't suggest you do that. If you do self-study, I think you should do it at an actual academy like Elite. But also at the end of the day, like what you take at your school is enough, maybe for academics wise. I think academics is good to one extent. But after that, you also have to start focusing on your extracurriculars. Kind of like, because academics don't show who you are. It shows that you can be studious, but the extracurriculars show like who you are, what your characteristics are, what your qualities are. And maybe that's a good transition into the extracurriculars that both me and Ayush did. And I can start off with one. It's FTC, that's robotics. And me and Ayush were on the same team for 4 years. And I think I can speak for both of us on this, that FTC was definitely our main extracurricular activity. I think there's a huge, I guess, debate on whether you should do, some people do 6 or 7 extracurricular activities, and then some people do 1 or 2. I at the end of the day don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, because I don't know, I'm not like a college admissions officer, and I'm not too sure how they think. But in my eyes, in my opinion, I think doing just a few extracurricular activities and going really deep in those is a lot better than doing 6 or 7 activities and just doing a bit in each. I think someone explained this to me when I was like a sophomore. What they're really looking for, what they might be looking for is for you to be a well-rounded person. So like a well-rounded ball. And then just have 1 or 2 spikes here. So a well-rounded ball with 1 or 2 spikes is what they're looking for. And those 1 or 2 spikes, you can show through 1 or 2 deep extracurricular activities that you do. And so starting off with the first tech challenge, which is the robotics team that we were on the American high school team, the school affiliated one. And I don't want to go too deep into like the specifics of the team, but there's like a mechanical branch, a code branch, and an outreach branch that helps the community. So I was a part of the code branch and the outreach branches in general. In my junior year, I was the captain of the team. And I think while you do the activity, there's like while you do any activity, I'll speak on my experience with FTC, but there's 3 things you should keep in mind. One is you really need to enjoy doing the activity. If you don't enjoy doing the activity, you're going to regret your life, because every week, I think I can confidently say that I spent at least like 28 plus hours a week. And that might be an underestimate. And that goes for Ayush too. He spent 28 hours and more per week too. And when competition nears by, it could even go to 40, 50 hours a week. And I think we might be an extreme case of how much time we spent on robotics, but still we enjoyed what we did so much. 1, because we got to spend time with each other. 2, we also enjoyed what we did. He focused on the mechanical aspect, I focused on the code aspect. It was just so much fun working on the entire robot. And that way, the 40, 50 hours, it didn't even seem like a hassle or anything. If anything, it seemed like I wanted to increase that number, because everything also happened at my garage. So just coming in at any time, doing stuff, it was just like, it was so much fun. And yeah, so that's one thing. Enjoy what you do. Number 2, make sure it's a good learning experience. I think, so for robotics, we did like autonomous pathways. So autonomous pathways. And I think, so we got a Tesla car recently, and that has autopilot driving. And so that was really cool to me. And of course, that's a lot more large scale. It can drive on roads and highways by itself. But just doing something on a much smaller scale on a small field was still super, super cool to me. And I think I learned a lot from that. And when you end up writing your college essays for college, whether it be the UC app or the Common App, I think like taking away what you learned and connecting that to stuff in the real world could be a good strategy for writing your essays. And maybe later we can even share some of our essay topics that might help you guys, that might inspire you guys to write if you guys are seniors and you guys are writing your apps. And third, when you're doing activity, I know like awards seem important, and awards are important in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, like, don't like kill yourself over it if you like don't win something. But of course, like winning will add to your college application. It'll add to who you are as a person itself, because it'll show that your time commitment actually led to good results. But at the end of the day, like if you don't make it, you don't make it. And maybe failure can be used in a good way as well on your college application, what you learned from failure or what you learned from success. And so, yeah, FTC was the first one. And then I'm sure Ayush will have another perspective on FTC, so I'll let him add that in a bit. But I only had 2 main extracurricular activities. And then the other ones were like small ones that I spent time on, but they weren't 4-year things. They were like 1 or 2-year things. The second one that I spent 3 years on was Dream Big from 10th to 12th grade. I wouldn't consider that an extracurricular activity. I'd consider that more of like a volunteer service. And that started 10th grade as just a thing, like to help the community. And then from running the sessions to now being a presenter in one of them, that's pretty cool to me. And then now it was just like, my brother went through the college admissions process, struggling through it. And we didn't really have anyone to guide us because he was the oldest in our like friend group and stuff. So no one could guide us. And seeing how much he struggled, how much stress he went through, the goal was just to reduce stress, keep people informed about the college admissions process, especially because it's something that's quite important and also so valuable to all of us. So yeah, Dream Big was a volunteer service from 10th grade to 12th grade. I think volunteering is pretty important, but at the same time, generic volunteering activities aren't good. Because like, let's say you just volunteer at the library for 12th grade. Yeah, so volunteering at the library for 4 years, that's something that like is really generic cliche. You want something that shows another aspect of your personality. And I think Ayush has beyond Terran. He'll probably share that in a bit. So I'll pass it over to him for now. Oh, actually, wait, one second. So the 1 to 2 year things that I mentioned, there was this year in my sophomore year and my, so I studied for my SAT in the summer of my freshman year. And I took the test in August and October of my sophomore year, after which I felt confident about my score. And so in December, I started to teach younger students SAT. And I did that for 4 months in my sophomore year and 4 months in my junior year. And that was just a small activity. It wasn't one of my main activities, but it was just another way of volunteering and sharing the knowledge. And it's important to have like some sort of a personal story behind each of the activities that you do. For example, the personal story behind the SAT tutoring that I did was, so my brother studied for his SAT in the summer of his sophomore year. And then he entered his junior year where he took 5 APs, and studying for his SAT in his junior year, also doing 5 APs, he also did robotics, doing all of that combined, it was super stressful for him. And there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much you can do in a day. And having to do all of that was definitely a struggle. And so that's why we learned from that experience. And that's why instead of studying for my SAT in the summer of my sophomore year, I studied for it the summer of my freshman year. And so starting younger sometimes can be difficult, but sometimes it also does have a benefit. So that's why at that point I studied, I helped other younger students study for the SAT so that when they grew older, there would be less stress on them. Of course, now the SAT doesn't matter as much just because of after COVID, they went blind test optional. But yeah, I think those 3 are the ones that are most memorable to me. And I'll pass it off to Ayush now.
Okay, so as Rahul said, me and Rahul were both part of the same FTC team. And I think Rahul covered most of the points about FTC. But one thing I'd like to say in addition to that is, when I first came onto the team in my freshman year, I didn't really interact with a lot of people. Like, yeah, I met Rahul, but we weren't super close that year. And back then it kind of seemed like a burden where I'd come to meetings, I wouldn't do that much, and I'd leave. Like, I wouldn't have a strong desire to attend meetings and actually work on our robot. And after that year, I think one thing that was super important that I realized was making those close connections on the different extracurriculars you're on is really important, because after that year, really, it wasn't only just what we did, it was also the people that we did it with. Like Rahul and we have another friend named Vishwa. We all kind of like stayed in the garage for hours upon hours. And in my sophomore, junior, and senior year, it didn't really seem like a burden. So one thing I would recommend is whatever you're on, whether it be a club or a sports team or really any other extracurricular, try to make those close connections so that you enjoy what you're both doing and who you're doing it with. And I think Rahul covered most of the other stuff about FTC. Another thing I did was Boy Scouts. In 9th and 10th grade, I did a lot more like in Boy Scouts. But then as COVID hit and everything started going online, it got a lot more it wasn't as more fun. And one thing I'd like to say about that is, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, don't keep doing it. I don't think it's worth your time, and I don't think you guys are going to enjoy doing that if you're not really enjoying like the activity you're doing. So then in my 11th and 12th grade, I was still doing Boy Scouts, but I wasn't doing it with as much like time commitment or like focus. Another thing I did was Beyond Terra, like Rahul said. That was an organization where we made big drones to drop seeds where, like, let's say there was a wildfire, the drone would drop seeds so that to help reforest like different areas. That was, I guess, a volunteering organization, but really from that I learned a lot more for myself than actually implementing it anywhere. And I think another important aspect is when you're doing like extracurricular activities, you want to look for things that both help you and like you learn different things, like Rahul said, and also you're giving back to the community. Like having a balance of both really helps. One way you can gain more knowledge for yourself is like research. And then some other things you could do is like dream big, like how Rahul did in high school. And then the last most like major thing I did was badminton. I played in 9th and 10th grade. And similar thing, I really liked robotics and I really wanted to put all my time there. So in 11th and 12th grade, although I enjoyed doing it, I kind of stopped playing on our high school team. So I'd say my main extracurriculars were really just FTC and Beyond Terra, which I spent around 2 years on. But I'd say mainly it was FTC.
And so I think for both of us, the main activity being FTC, some of our essays also focusing on FTC, like it goes to show, and in my estimation, at least, we're both heading to good places after high school. So I think it just goes to show that it's not important to do a bunch of activities. Focus on a couple and really go deep in those. Do what you enjoy and go really, really deep in those. And maybe you might find something about yourself that you never really knew that you can focus on in your essays. And maybe just something that'll be generally good for the future that you took away from your high school extracurricular activities. I think there's some things like parental pressure. Sometimes some family friends that I've had, like parents force them into some activities and make them do it. I think that really takes like the oomph out of it, takes the oomph out of the activity. Yeah, just make sure you enjoy what you're doing, have fun with it while you do it. Yeah.
And then also, if you spend a lot of time in like 1 or 2 activities, and if you really enjoy doing it, when it comes time to write your essays, you'll have a lot of different experiences to write about. You won't be limited in that aspect. I think when I was brainstorming for my UC essays, out of all the extracurriculars I did, it was really tough to come up with topics for some of them. One, because they were really generic, and two, I didn't really do that much, and like I didn't enjoy my time there enough to where I could write like a lot about it. For FTC specifically, I feel like I could go on and on. I could write like 100 pages if I wanted to.
Yeah. So I think that covers academics, extracurriculars. We see a lot of questions coming in the chat, and we'll be sure to address them once we're done talking about what we have to, which should be fairly soon. I think we'll talk about time management and then also about maybe the college application process of it. But I guess we'll head into time management right now. Preet, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So time management, I think this will also address the question, how many hours of sleep did you get every day? I saw that one somewhere. So it depends on how much you want to prioritize sleep. That's a very important question. Freshman year, I slept I'd be in bed by 9:30 every day, and I'd wake up at 7 to get ready for school. So that's what, a good 9.5 hours, something like that. Then sophomore year, I did the same until COVID hit. And then COVID kind of really changed me as a person and also like my sleep schedule. Once COVID hit, school turned online. I'd sleep at like 1 or 2 and wake up at, well, sophomore year, it didn't matter because school didn't resume. So I'd wake up at like 10 or 11. So it's still 9 hours of sleep. It was just my entire sleep schedule shifted. So now we get to junior and senior year, because freshman and sophomore year, I really think you should be able to handle your sleep schedules properly. Just because the coursework isn't as much as junior or senior year would be. Now, junior year, I took 6 APs. It was distance learning. And I will say that helped. Distance learning definitely helped because during classes, you could do some work because there's asynchronous time. Then school also started an hour earlier, ended an hour earlier. But at the same time, there still was a lot of coursework to deal with. And as the captain of the team that year for robotics, there was a lot to get done on that end as well to make sure we made it to Worlds at the end of the year. And we're distance learning at American high school due to COVID. So it was all online through Zoom. Yeah. So yeah, sleep schedule wise, I think, well, me and Ayush always slept at the same time junior year, pretty much. That's how tight we were. It was either he was at my garage to work on robotics and then he went home and we both slept, or we would always do our homework together. And we'd be on Zoom, do our homework together, and like finally we're done with our homework and we're tired and we go sleep. And it'd generally be around 1 or 2. It would be around 1 or 2, and we would wake up around 9. because that's when school started. So that's a good 7 hours. Of course, with in-person school, that would end up being 7. We'd probably have to wake up around 7 to get ready for school, and you have to get there, be there by 8:30. So we'd probably get 6 hours of sleep. If it was in person, we probably would have only got 6 hours of sleep. Since it was distance learning, we were able to get 7. But in my opinion, while like it's recommended you get 8 hours of sleep, maybe for 1 or 2 years you can survive on 6 hours. That's how I see it. I also think without FTC, if FTC wasn't in my life, I could have gotten 9 hours of sleep every single day, maybe even more. I spent as much time on FTC as I did on my 6 APs, or maybe even more. And so since that extracurricular activity took up so much of my time, and I'm grateful for that, I got my sleep cut down on. But honestly, if you're managing your work properly, and that's just getting work done when you can, a lot of the work they assign, I'm going to be honest, is busy work. It's not work that really requires like a lot of your brain power. It's busy work. It's just time consuming. It's really frustrating. APUSH, at American high school, it's like 20 pages of notes per week. Some people, I had a friend who it's basically due every Thursday. I had a friend who would wake up Thursday morning. Yeah, AP US history. I had a friend who'd wake up Thursday morning at 6 a.m. He'd spend till 8 a.m. on it and he'd be done, just 2 hours a week. But it took me around 8 hours per week. It takes everyone a different amount of time. And so since it took me 8 hours per week, what I'd do is I'd start on Sunday and maybe do 2 hours on Sunday, and then Monday do another 2 hours. And just splitting it that way helps a ton. If you're gonna sit there Wednesday night and be like, okay, I'm gonna spend 8 hours, then it's gonna turn into an all-nighter where you get absolutely no sleep. It's really about time managing it properly. I think everyone's capable of it. I really do think everyone's capable of it. It's important to just follow your time schedule, time management. And I think there will be nights if you take a lot of APs where you don't get any sleep at all. I had those nights senior year where I only took 5 APs. But I think those nights are inevitable sometimes, but don't be scared of them, embrace them. They can be fun. Maybe the next day you'll be a bit groggy, a bit tired, but you'll remember them and they'll be fun. So don't be afraid of those moments, embrace them.
And also, like, I think we improved a lot on our time management over the years. Like in the beginning of junior year, I remember I slept at like to do APUSH notes. I didn't always do them like Rahul, like 2 hours every day. Sometimes I'd cram them on like 1 or 2 days. And I remember in the beginning, I used to sleep at like 2, 3, 4. But then by the end of junior year, I was sleeping decently early, unless I went to FTC where I'd be doing work there. But I think starting off, it might be difficult, but it does get better as time goes on.
Yeah, and then something I want to say that will help with time. I think you should take this advice how you want to take it. But I think you need to use your acquaintances and friends in a good way, where if you think you can do everything on your own, that's not how it's going to work. Like, sometimes, like, well, let's see, what's a good example? I don't want you all to take this the wrong way. But I think Ayush knows what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to think of a good example, and that hopefully will lead you all in the right direction. So just give me a minute, please. Okay, yeah, I have a good example. So for AP Literature, we had these poetry assignments, okay? They were massive poetry assignments that I think, I'm not a fan of poetry, I'm not a fan of literature in itself, and because I'm a STEM major and humanities classes don't interest me, not even a bit. So these massive poetry assignments, they take like 12, 14 hours. And I had 2 of my friends in my classes. So what we'd kind of do is there'd be like 24 questions a week. 24 questions might not seem like a lot, but he wanted you to write like 200, 300 words per question. And that amounted to a lot at the end of the day. And since I had no interest in that class, I'd do it the night before, and every time it was due, I'd probably not get any sleep that previous night. But what did help is, if there were 24 questions, I had 2 other friends, that's 3 people. 24 divided by 3 is 8. I'd do 8 questions. One of my friends would do 8 questions. And another one of the friends would do 8 questions. Now, what's important is I'm not copy pasting what they write, right? Okay. but it'll lead me in the right direction. And that'll help me get the work done faster. If you're going to do all 24 questions from scratch, that's what I was doing initially. It took me a good 24 hours. But using isn't even the right word. I don't know how well I'm phrasing this, but getting some help from your friends is not a wrong thing. Don't cheat. I'm not saying cheat. I'm not saying plagiarize, but getting some help to be led in the right direction to save some time here and there is a strategy that you have to use to save time. Yeah, I think that's about it on the time management sake. If you have any questions about time management specifically, you can put that in chat. Last thing, should we go over college applications?
Yeah. Should be.
Okay. College applications. Wait, Ayush, did you do coalition?
No.
No, okay. So there's a UC application, common application, and coalition application. If you're a junior or senior, you might be familiar with this. The UC application is for all 9 UCs. Common app is what most colleges use. And then there's a select few colleges who use the coalition app, or they have their own platform. So me and Ayush both did not do the coalition app, so we probably won't speak on that. But the UC app and common application we're very familiar with. The UC application asks for like your general information, name, gender, all that. Then it asks for your extracurricular activities, your academics, the courses you took, the grades you received in those classes. Then awards you got. So they have like 20 spaces, I believe, for extracurricular activities, awards, and volunteer activities. These are things you can find on the application side. I don't want to get too deep into that. I think what I want to focus on is the essays, because that's what people struggle often with and takes up most of their time in their first semester of their senior year and maybe their junior year summer. I think a good place to start your essays is maybe the middle of your junior year summer, or maybe towards the end. By then you should know your major for sure, likely, or hopefully you know it. Hopefully you're decisive enough to know your major. But yeah, I think you should start off with your common application essay. That's do you remember 600 words? 650?
650.
Yeah. The word limit on that 650. And they have 9 different prompts, or 7 different prompts actually. Let me share my, am I able to share my screen? Yeah, okay, let me. I don't know if they changed it. No, they didn't change it. Okay, so these are the 7 prompts that the Common App has for the 2022-2023 year. And I think I chose prompt number 1. Yeah, I chose prompt number 1. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So just to like serve as inspiration, I'll share what I wrote for my Common App. It was about Spanish. So I really, when I learned the language of Spanish in high school, I really enjoyed that language of Spanish. And in freshman year, I was in my biology class. These 3 international students came in and they didn't know English. They only knew Spanish. So throughout that year, I was helping them, translating what the teacher said from English to Spanish. Of course, my Spanish was broken because I'm not a native Spanish speaker. I used what I learned in Spanish 1, 2, and 3 to talk to them. But just being able to communicate with someone in a different language, learning about their culture was really interesting to me. And I felt that was one of my interests. So that's what I talked about. And I really developed on my interest in Spanish and how I wanted to meet people of different cultures and languages. And what you're trying to show with the Common App essay is a unique part of your character. Like, I think you want to stray away from the cliche things. So junior year, I was the captain of the team and we won first place Inspire, which was like declaring us like the top team in NorCal. I spent tons of time in FTC, and on my Common App, I could have like talked about that for let's say question number 2. It could have been question number 7, or question number 6. Any of these. Really a topic fits for a bunch of prompts, but that probably would have ended up being really cliche because there's tons of people who would have spent time on their extracurricular activity and helped their team win. And you don't want to fall in, like there could be someone who made like a game-winning shot in basketball and helped their team win. Going into those cliche topics is what you want to stray from. You want to do something really unique, something that other people might not have. And I think that's really important. And then if Ayush feels comfortable sharing his Common App essay topic.
Yeah. One thing before I speak about my essay, one thing Rahul said that's important is like about the cliche like stories. You have an activity sheet. There's like 10 activities that you can write down. The like about FTC. FTC was something that we were gonna put on our activity sheet regardless. So here it's good to put something that's meaningful to you and different. So you're showing different sides of yourself. Like if he wrote about FTC robotics for the essay and it was in his activity section, that's not really showing anything new about him. But here he chose to write about Spanish, and then in his activity section he wrote about FTC. So that shows more diversity and different things rather than the same thing. So that's one important thing. And then I chose the exact same prompt, number 1. And I talked about my interest in cooking. Ever since I was a little kid, I kind of just like always was in the kitchen. Like I'd be like making like food at like 1 a.m. So that's something I wrote about. Initially, I was thinking about writing about FTC, but then cooking is really meaningful to me. And then also to show a different side of myself, that's what I talked about. And I instead of focusing on my interest in cooking, I talked about how cooking has led me to learn many lessons. Like one thing is, while cooking, you use a lot of different ingredients. And sometimes like you may not have, let's say it requires ginger. Let's say you don't have ginger. How can you be creative and use different ingredients to provide like a very similar taste? That's something I took away. And that's also like kind of what I talked about in my whole essay.
Yeah. So, wait, Ayush, do you want to address the question?
Yeah. It can. You don't need to. Like, I don't think it can really fit in any one of them. Like the first one is about your interest. Like I have an interest in cooking, but it also makes me lose track of time. Like it's really what you choose. Like you can't really go wrong. It's less about the prompt. It's more about what you write about and how meaningful it is.
Yeah. And just to address this latest question, can you both share the name of the counselors? We both use the same counselor, and this was the name of the counselor, Aditi Kapadia at Ivy Review Evergreen. Yeah. Maybe you can just take a quick note of this, and we'll also put it in the chat maybe right now. And then we'll quickly talk about the UC app maybe. And also, usually these questions do not change from year to year. It's very rare that they change the questions. Super, super rare. Probably won't happen. So you can start thinking about these questions ahead of time just a bit. Just get like don't write the essay super early, but just maybe get your like blood flowing about them, blood pumping. I will say the UC questions are more straightforward than the Common App prompt. The Common App prompt wants you to be super unique, and you should be super unique. Versus this is a more straightforward. Let's just take a look at prompt 1 real quick. Describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. And for me, this was a perfect place to talk about FTC because I had a leadership role there, and I believe I positively influenced others and contributed to group efforts over time, as well as helped resolve disputes. And so here's where I talked about FTC. If I scroll down, there's one, what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? Here's where I thought Dream Big really fit in. And then, quick thing, reusing essays is something people do. So for example, number 8, beyond what has already been shared in the application, what do you believe makes you a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? I know several people who, here you can really talk about anything. So here, what people can do is take their Common App essay, which is 650 words. The word limit for each of the UC essays is 350 words. So they take their Common App essay and shorten it to 350 words, and that can be one of your UC essays. But make sure you're also answering the prompt. for number one, you can't just talk about a leadership experience. It asks you to show how you positively influence others, help resolve disputes. And I think conclusions are really powerful in essays. Introductions. So based on what my counselor had told me before, it's like your introduction is important to keep your audience, in this case, which is the admissions officer, hooked. You don't want the admissions officer to read the first 2 sentences of your essay, be bored, and then they move on to the next application. So the introduction needs to be unique and hooky. And your conclusion needs to show how that has changed you and how you're ready to attend that university. How it's morphed you into a better person. And it needs to be deep. It should be deep, at least in my estimation. But yeah, I think you need to answer 4 out of these 8 prompts. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the UC app. You want to add?
I don't have much to say. I mean, you covered like all of it.
Mm-hmm. And this is important. Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to answer these questions. It's about getting to know your personality, background, interests, and achievements in your own unique voice. Okay, cool. I think that goes through everything what we wanted to say. Hopefully you all enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, we have questions. So how do you want to do the questions?
Yeah, so how we're going to do it is I will be sharing my screen. 1 second. Yes. And then here's a list of questions, and some of them have already been answered, like what you guys were talking, but we can go through them. And if you guys have anything to add, as some of the questions were left like unanswered, and then we can go from there. For now, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat. And once we're done with these, we can open up the session to the live audience, and you guys can ask questions by unmuting. So you mentioned that you both have taken around 14 APs, and that's a lot of APs for students. How were you able to create a balance between academics, extracurriculars, and your social life?
So yeah, I think we went over this a bit, but just to reiterate it in a more concise fashion, when you enjoy what you're doing, like AP chemistry, it was a hard class. I will say the teacher was really good. But it was also a really hard class. I got a 40% on my first AP Chem test, and I thought it was over for me. Like I was gonna get a C, end up with a C in the class. But if like one test, if you perform poorly on that, it's not the end of the world. And just the way is every night before every AP Chem test, me and Ayush would get on a Zoom at like 4 p.m. and we'd stay on Zoom together probably till 1 or 2 a.m. until we felt confident about the content, until we did a bunch of practice problems. And so when you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't even seem like time's going by, and you don't feel that stressed. So like just set aside time. Like if you really have an AP chemistry stuff test to study for, then spend that day on academics. The next day, if you feel like you have free time, spend that day on extracurriculars. And then I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really have a social life in high school. Like I'm gonna come very honestly. And honestly, to some extent, I do regret that, because I have a very tight group of 8 friends, but outside of that, I really don't have any connections that I made in high school. And in retrospect, I should have made some connections outside my immediate close friend group. But at the end of the day, like now I know to improve that for college. So from speaking from my experience, academics and extracurriculars, just when you have any piece of time, don't just sit there, do something, whether it be academically related or extracurricularly related.
And then also, I think I speak for both me and Rahul. Part of our social life was also integrated into like our extracurriculars and academics. Like how Rahul talked about, we'd be on Zoom till like 1 or 2. It wouldn't just be us like silently working on Zoom. Like we take like 5, 10, 20-minute breaks in the middle and just like talk about whatever we talk about, or like while doing academics, we'd like joke around, or like, yeah, things like that. Like it wasn't just 6 hours of just working on work.
Yeah.
Cool. I know this one was already answered, so I'm gonna actually skip number 2. But for number 3, what are some tips you may have for students starting high school as their incoming freshmen regarding the course load and all that?
Yeah,
Go ahead. No, regarding course load or extracurriculars, or both?
Both.
Ro, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So in general, I think the stress component is super important. Like I was super stressed like every single moment of my like high school career. Like sophomore year, like I would be nearly tardy for a class and it would be like 8:28. And my house is super close to American, so I can just walk there. And sophomore year, I'd walk to school. I'd leave the house at 8:24, but it's an 8-minute walk, and I'd run. And like my heart would race because like I'm like, oh shoot, I can't be tardy. But like in the grand scheme of things, like a couple tardies is okay. Like don't stress yourself out over 1 or 2 tardies. Of course, be on time to class. I'm not saying don't be late to class, but here and there tardies is fine. Don't stress yourself over that. Again, as I said, one test isn't the end of the world. If you flunk a test or you do bad on it, it's okay. Just bounce back the next time, and you can get your grade up in a class. Like especially APENG in junior year, a lot of students start with a C, and then they have to work their way up to an A. And just sometimes stress will help you, but sometimes overstress is just bad. Just I think going in with a calm, peaceful mindset is helpful.
And then also when it comes to courses, I know I did this a lot for the first couple of years, but like, let's say you get a bad grade, instead of like, after like, let's say that test, you're like spending an hour or two trying to figure out, oh, what like score you need for the next like exam, this, that. Instead of using that time to do that, it's better if you just accept that you might have messed up on the first test and spend that time to improve. Because I know the first like 3 years-ish, a lot of times after a test, I know I didn't do too well. I'd go on like Roger Hub or like an online like app, and then just like input my grades and see what I need for the next test. And like I get stressed out a lot, like, oh, I need that next grade. I need a 90% on the next test to get an A. Instead of that, I think my time would have been better spent just focusing on the material and then getting it down first before you go to those calculators and things like that.
Definitely, yeah. What are some strategies that you guys have used for your AP exams, and if you guys mind sharing what type of scores you guys received?
Yeah, so of course, junior and senior year, we had a lot of AP exams to study for. I think junior year studying for my AP exams was super memorable because we had like a group of 4 friends from our immediate friend group, and we made this entire calendar because there's like 5 or 6 APs to study for. There's a bunch of tests. Each test is 3 hours long, and there's a lot of content to study. So we made this entire like calendar Google document. Maybe if I can find it, I can show you all. But it was a grind, but at the end of the day, like the prep books help. Using prep books is really, really useful from Barron's, especially because I think Barron's gives you harder questions than what's presented on the AP test. So you go in feeling like you go in having practiced harder problems. So at the end of the day, the test seems easier. Then also AP Classroom is a recent resource that's very useful. They have videos and progress checks. And then again, studying with your friends, unbelievably helpful. Just when you don't understand a concept, you explain it to them. Oh, sorry, they explain it to you. And when they don't understand a concept, you explain it to them and you understand it even better.
And then also senior year, by the like I'd say like by April, March, you already know kind of what colleges you got accepted into. So the tests during senior year, try to focus on the tests that will actually get you credit and through classes in college, instead of trying to get a good score on all of them. Because what may happen is you try to study for every single one, and you might get a lower score on every single one, rather than focusing on like the 2 or 3 that you got actually get you credit, and then you'd get a 5 on those and you'd get credit.
Yeah.
Cool. The next question here was, what are some tips that you may have for students to maintain a solid GPA? I know you guys are both very high, like students with high GPAs, and Rahul, you're a valedictorian. So like, what are your tips on that?
Tips for school itself. For every class, you need to understand like how the teacher is going to give you a test. Usually for every test, for every class when it starts, I'm really stressed for the first test just because I don't know what type of, like how the test is going to be. It's a new teacher. Every teacher gives a different type of test. And every time I'm really scared. So the first test I use like as a test, like a test, a pilot test. It's like I'm going to study as much as possible, but I don't know what I'm going to face. And once that's done, I go into the next test feeling a lot more confident. And I think just you really need to study. Like it's hard. At times it can get really difficult, really stressful. And that's when you should reach out to upperclassmen or people who have graduated. For my AP chemistry class, once I got a 40 on my first test, I was super, super scared. So what I did was I reached out to my brother's friend, got some advice from them, how like that teacher tests, how to prepare for those tests. I think that's really important. This is not a journey or a path that you can walk on your own. You're going to need people to support you, whether that be your parents or friends. And other than that, just study before each and every test, do your assignments on time, never mess up on homework, because if you like tests, like of course are much harder. Homework, you should be able to get, like, if you do it on time, you spend your time on it, just you'll have 100% of the homework category. Participate in class. I think participating in class is just a good way to like make a good impression on the teacher sometimes, but it's not like I always did it. I did it in classes I liked. I didn't do it in classes I didn't like. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, then just take every extra credit opportunity you get.
Yeah.
You never know when you need it.
Yeah, definitely. And so this one is actually oriented towards you. Did you not take AP Calc BC from school? And is that a problem? Like, was there like an issue with that?
No, so
Like,
since when I tried taking calculus BC at school during my senior year, all the seniors weren't allowed to, because during online learning they took out pre-calculus honors and that was a prerequisite. So my only option was calculus AB, but I wanted to take calculus BC, so I ended up taking that outside. And since outside is easier than school, I mean, not necessarily. A lot of the like accredited like places that you can take the actual course, they still like have proctoring and things like that. So it's like the homework might be easier, but the tests are not easier. And then yeah, and then in the UC application and the common application, there's a specific section where you can explain your circumstance. Like I was able to explain that our school didn't like allow seniors to take AP Calculus BC, and that's why I took it outside. So through that, the college knows what circumstance you have and why you did it. So it's important to write that down in there.
okay, sounds good.
Oh wait.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Great question.
Yeah.
I took AP Calculus BC at UC Scout. It's like an extension of UC Santa Cruz for AP classes.
Okay, sounds good. The next question was, where did you guys complete your volunteer hours, and does it matter, or does it leave an impression on college admission officers?
I did half my hours at the Fremont Main Library. I did like half my hours there, where I just helped older people use technology. And then it was called Teen Tech, the program. And I did the other half of my hours at an organization called Olive Children, where that was a part of FTC, where me and Ayush went and we taught kids coding. I think it was Java and Python. And since they were a nonprofit organization, we were able to get volunteer hours from them.
And then, yeah, so my half, like Rahul said, was also Olive Children's. And then the other half I got from Boy Scouts through like service project.
Okay, cool. The next question was, my son will be in the class of 2025 and is currently a sophomore in their high school. Does he still have to take the SAT?
It depends on the college. I think for the UCs, he does not. But I think you should fact check this on the website. If you go on the college that you're interested in website, it's always listed on the website pretty clearly. Just search up, like, let's say for Carnegie Mellon SAT requirement. And then if there are a couple colleges that your student's really interested in and they require the SAT, or even make it test optional, then you should probably take the SAT. But it used to matter a lot. It's definitely decreased in importance since then.
Definitely. And so for Ayush, did you do Beyond Terra in your 11th and 12th grade?
Yeah, I think it started, or like I was recruited like earlier on, so like I believe it was 11th grade summer and then 12th grade.
Okay, cool. And have either of you guys done any research or internships?
I haven't done research or an internship in high school.
Yeah, I haven't done any research at all. I did an internship the summer of my sophomore year and the summer of my junior year, both at the same company. As a high school intern, you're never going to get paid. So they were both unpaid internships. I did it at the company Contic and I worked on code stuff. So that was really fun because it was related to my major. And I think there was a lot of questions about how to get internships. I think you need to use your connections, and oftentimes it's going to be difficult that you have connections. So you're probably going to need to get help from your parents, and your parents are going to have to, talk to their colleagues and get you connected to people. For me, my mom helped me out with getting my internships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Ayush, this question is oriented towards you. What was your Eagles project? And can you talk more about that?
So I already mentioned this, but I'll just reiterate it. In 11th grade, I kind of stopped putting as much time into Boy Scouts. So I never really like advanced all the way to Eagle. I ended up like leaving at Star. But I think one thing is like, especially if you're like in the Bay Area, a lot of people do Boy Scouts, and like a lot of people from my troop, like basically everyone got to Eagle. So I don't think it's as important if you reach all the way to Eagle. It's more about, yeah. I chose to put that time into like FTC and robotics.
So yeah, it's not always about the title. It's also about just your personal story behind it.
Mm-hmm. And Raul, could you talk a little bit more about your internship?
Yeah, so I got at the company Contic CONTIQ. That's where my mom was working at the time, and she was able to connect me and get me an internship there. It started in mid-June. I would end in mid-August, right before school started. I did it both at the summer of my sophomore year and the summer of my junior year. The summer of my junior year, I expanded upon what I did in the summer of my sophomore year. So it was more of like a continuation. And it was genuinely really fun because I was working on something I was interested in. I was coding completely in Python, and being able to use skills I learned in classes, apply that in the real world. Sorry. It was a really fun experience for me, and it ended up being something that I was able to include on my college application.
Cool. Yeah, and I think the next question you already answered, how to get an internship. You said personal connections is the best way to go. So the next question was, does essay content have any correlation with major, and what major did you apply for?
So yeah, I applied computer science to every single college that I applied to because I was super certain that that's the major I wanted to study. Essay content, so for example, your common application, it can, but generally it's like more about your personality that doesn't relate to your major. But for example, like a leadership role, like let's say I'm applying as a CS major, right? Like a leadership role at the end of the day could be anywhere, but like maybe just kind of weird if I talk about like, hey, I was a leader of an arts program, but like I'm a CS major. So like where's the correlation, right? So it can be good in some places to have correlation to my major, but think about my community service essay. It was about Dream Big. Dream Big has no correlation to computer science. And so not all your questions have to be, sorry, not all your essays have to be related to your major. It's good to relate it, some of your essays to your major, but they don't always have to be.
And then I think our counselor, when we were working with our counselor, she did say something about the one prompt in the UC application for what's one subject that inspires you. Like if you're like kind of like Rahul, what Rahul said, if you're like a computer science major in his case and you're talking about like a different subject there's not really a correlation there. So if you do end up doing that prompt, then you might want to talk about what, like I applied for mechanical engineering. And for that prompt, I talked about physics. So that has, although it's not a direct correlation, there's still some relation there.
Wait, I think we skipped over.
14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to- Okay.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Is it the one? Can we talk about internship?
I brought
No.
it back to the bottom.
Yeah, it's back at 22 now. We're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. We'll be updating that. So we'll just continue down the line. How do we appeal to the UC if we send our essays all at once?
So you don't need to appeal, if that, hopefully I'm answering this question right, but you don't need to appeal to each individual UC. The UC application is all one, and every single UC receives the same application. So you do not need to appeal to each specific UC versus other private colleges like, let's take Carnegie Mellon for an example. They have like essay prompts where they're like, why do you want to attend Carnegie Mellon? And then you have to make it specific to Carnegie Mellon. But for the UC, it's not like that. They're just trying to understand who you are. It's not like, why do you want to attend the University of California? Because all 9 UCs receive the same application.
Got you. And how many APs would you suggest to take throughout high school based on your guys' experience?
Everyone's going to give you a different answer. Every single person you ask this question. I think I'll let Ayush answer after, but I can't give you a concrete answer of a number, but as many as you can handle. You don't want to take like 14, 15 APs, but if you think you're going to get, like 5 or 6 Bs throughout them, it's important to take as many APs as you can while you think you can also get As in them. Of course, mishaps are going to happen. You could get Bs, and of course that's A-okay, but you don't want to take too many at the point where you feel overwhelmed. And I think every student is different, and so it depends on that.
So
But-
just one question. So which APs you both took in your 9th grade?
None.
In 9th grade, you can't take any APs, or at least at American high school, you can't take any APs.
So then, but if you study on your own, like suppose AP psychology or say principles of computer science, then can't you just register to elite or some college and then give it?
Yeah, so you can do that. But also, it's not really necessary in 9th grade. Because in 9th grade, you're still figuring like things out, like your extracurriculars and how to like manage your time in like high school. Because it's a decently big jump from junior high to high school. So it's not necessary, but like Rahul said, he did take the APCSA test in 9th grade. But yeah.
Oh, okay. So this AP, which is like the computer science AP course that you guys do, American high school is not offering it. Like my son is in 9th grade right now. So would they offer it in 10th or 11th grade, or you guys do it on your own?
So I think at our school, it's only offered 11th and 12th, but you can still take the AP test is separate from the course. So although you can't take the course, Rahul took the AP test in 9th grade.
So principles of computer science or principles of computer science A? A is
No,
a higher
computer
level.
science
I
A.
guess.
Yeah, A is the higher level.
So if I ask him to go for principles of computer science, does it have any value? Or he
In
should
9th
go for A? Yeah, in 9th grade.
It depends, because you might have like an open spot later on. So you might end up like you might have space in like 11th or 12th grade to take it. So it's not necessary in 9th grade.
No, I want him to do it. So it would have a value, right? Once he does it when he's in, say, next year in May or June, he can give that, right? On his
Just
own.
the test or the course too?
Say it again.
Just the test or the course as well?
Just the test after doing the course himself, like self-study or something.
So is he going to do you plan that he self-studies at home or at the academy like UC, elite?
Well, he's planning to do it on his own, but I can get him admitted to elite also if it's a good one.
Because if you
Good.
okay. If you do that elite or UC Scout, you'll get the actual transcript. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to submit that to like colleges. So that'll boost your GPA. If you self-study, you will just get the like AP test. So if you're going to take the actual course in like the real high school anyway later, I believe Rahul said this too. It's not really worth taking it in 9th grade. But if you're planning to do the course, then it can be a good idea.
I see.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, if he's going to self-study AP Computer Science Principles or AP Computer Science A this year, what we would suggest is that, of course, he takes the AP test in May, and that he takes the course at a place like UC Scout or Elite, such that it'll end up coming up on his transcript and it'll boost his UC GPA.
So which one is better, Elite or UC Scout?
UC
Each,
Scout
right?
is UC Scout is more inexpensive. But I'd say I like UC Scout more because the teaching at UC Scout is a lot more interactive. Like in Elite, they just gave you the whole course and they were like, oh, you can do it yourself. At UC Scout, there's like actual office hours and like specific times where the teacher actually teaches them.
I see. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Cool. So the next question was, how do we appeal to the UCs?
We already went over that one, right?
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, we'll pull that out. What APs would you suggest would be helpful for?
Wait, we skipped 22 again.
Oh, yes. I've heard that in order to take some CS related summer programs, like the ones offered at Berkeley, you need to have completed computer science A and by the end of your sophomore year. How does AHS do this because they didn't offer before their junior year?
Honestly, I'm really not too sure about summer programs. I didn't do any summer programs at all except those internships, which don't really count as summer programs. But if you were to, the only way you can do CSA before your junior year is like, one is to take the test in May. And if you also want it on your transcript, do it at an external organization like Elite or UC Scout.
Cool. Okay, so I think we'll skip over to 24. What APs do you suggest would be helpful for CS/engineering major?
Here, let me type them out in chat one by one, and then you can add on. But chemistry, right?
Yeah.
If for just for a minute, no one can enter questions in the chat, please, just so we can get this, or please typing it, never mind. On the doc. Okay, chemistry, physics 1, physics C. Yes, CSA, CSP.
AP Calc BC.
Oh yes, Calc BC. Also, I think the most important AP tests are Calc BC and Physics 1.
Okay.
Wait, do you get Physics 1 credit?
No. No, not Physics 1, Physics C.
Oh, sorry, not Physics 1. Yeah, you get Physics C credit?
Yeah.
Okay, but not for E&M?
Not for you.
Okay, so the most important AP tests, in my opinion, are AP Calc BC and AP Physics C Mechanics. Those are the ones that generally offer credit at a lot of colleges. Of course, the college you end up going to, it might be different.
Also, I'm not too sure about every other college, but for Berkeley, AP Chemistry is pretty important too, because at Berkeley, you're gonna have to take not only the actual like class, you also have to take a separate lab section. So it's like broken up into 2, and it's almost like 5 units. It's a lot more than the other classes.
Yeah, you should. I mean, at the end of the day, you're putting in 9 months of effort to learn the content. So you should probably try your best on your AP test as well. Just because you don't know what college you're going to end up going to, and they could or could not offer credit. But honestly, the humanities ones, actually, no, even the humanities ones can help. Yeah. So actually just try your best, honestly. But at the end of the day, if you get a 1 or a 2 or a 3, because usually 4 and 5 is what gives credit. Sometimes 3 does too. Don't worry. I proudly say I got a 1 on my E&M exam this year. And honestly, it doesn't matter because it didn't offer credit at all. It didn't offer credit at all at my college. And so like me putting in effort is useless. So but mechanics did offer credit. If I get a 5 on mechanics, I can skip a course at UCLA. Even if I get a 5 on E&M, it's not going to help me at all. So what I did is I studied super hard for mechanics and I ended up getting a 5 there. But at the same time, I lost my score on E&M. But at the end of the day, I was able to skip a course. Like if I split my effort 50-50 and maybe I got a 3 on mechanics and a 3 on E&M, then what would have happened is I wouldn't be able to skip a course. But getting a 5 on mechanics and a horrible score on E&M was good for me because now I can skip a course. So it's important to prioritize like that. It's not all about, it's important to prioritize like that. The PSAT, number 25, we took in sophomore year, but that was just for fun. They have everyone take in sophomore year. And then since we were a weird year, class of 2022, because we didn't have a PSAT junior year. Because it was online COVID year. So for the National Merit Scholarship, they changed it to just your SAT score. Number 26. I'm a bit confused on that question. By waiver in college, does it mean like if we were able to skip a course?
If you could unmute.
Yes. Waiver means you will get credit or something like that. You can skip that course.
Yeah, Spanish didn't give me anything, but like it's just a requirement to graduate to take foreign language requirements. So that's why Spanish is good. Also, AP English. I don't have to take any English. So I'm in the College of Engineering, and now I don't have to take any English courses at UCLA. I would have had to take one, but since I got a good score on my AP English exam, I can skip out of that English course. AP US History also does help. It takes me out of another humanities course. And really, I'm really happy that these AP courses are getting me out of humanities courses, because in college, I want to really get deep into computer science, and me not having to take humanities courses is really a blessing for me, just because I'm not a fan of humanities courses. And yeah.
And then for me, AP US History and AP European History help. For AP English, for me, 11th grade help, but at Berkeley, you can only skip out of one English. So I still have to take the second one. But the second AP English course, AP English Literature, that can, or I get credit for that, and that gets me out of a humanities course too.
Yeah.
Doing this AP Psychology in 9th grade, does it have any value? It's like, or is it like a useless thing? It would not help at all, because my son is like more interested in going in computer science field.
If he's going to go in a computer science field, I don't think he should take AP Psychology.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. The next question is, do you recommend taking or self-studying an AP?
I personally don't think it's necessary, simply because the academics aspect, I think it's enough what you do in school. As long as you take as many APs as you can. Now, that doesn't mean take 6 and 5. I mean, as many as you can handle. And then I think that's enough on the academic aspect. And I think year by year, colleges are really looking at 1-year essays and 2-year extracurricular activities, how unique they are and how much time and effort you're putting in them. So I think academics wise, I personally, after having taken AP CSA in 9th grade, I don't think you should self-study.
Yeah. And the last question here is, what are your thoughts on a language taken outside of school?
Does this mean like a language like
I think certain languages like
outside of school?
Yeah.
I personally don't know anyone who did that. I think I do know one person, but I really do think it's just simpler to take it at school. But do you know anybody?
I don't are we talking about regular like Spanish, Chinese, French, or like Hindi?
I think they mean like other languages, but if whoever asked this question, you can please clarify. I think that'll help us out.
Feel free to unmute.
Oh, Hindi. Okay.
I'm not too sure about how
there are schools that first you should make sure, but there are some schools that will transfer credit to complete your foreign language requirement. But I do think foreign language, I do think Spanish, French, or Chinese is the easiest way to go in school, especially Spanish is so similar to English. But I can also see why you would want to take a language like Hindi, because maybe you already speak it at home, and it'll be an easy way to get your foreign language requirement out of the way. But I think you should take it at school, but there are schools that will allow you to transfer credit. That's another way you can go. You can take it outside. I think it can only be beneficial because that opens up another slot for an elective, I guess. But, you know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, whatever you prefer.
And then also, someone asked, some high schools don't accept outside of school credit. The high school doesn't need to, the transcripts you have, you can send them directly to the colleges later when you apply to college. You don't need, like American high school didn't allow us to take outside courses and have that show up on our American high school transcript. Some schools do that, but ours didn't. So instead, we submit it directly to the college and they'd recalculate your GPA.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Should you take an AP in 8th grade? No.
I don't even know if you can.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think you must be in high school. But even I really do think that's too early. It's like APs is like up to some extent, like it's good. But again, I think I've been stressing essays and extracurriculars. Don't undermine the importance of them. Other than preparing for the SAT, what did you do during the summer of 9th grade? Nothing. All I did was prepare for the SAT in my summer of my 9th grade. As I said, summer of my sophomore and junior year, I did an internship, as well as prepare for classes a bit here and there, just like getting a feel for what it'd be like. And then summer of my senior year right now. It's been probably one of my most fun summers, just because I haven't had to, just because college is coming up and there's no like requisite. It's fun.
Yeah. This question in the chat is, if you do an AP with UC Scout, do you need to give AP exam at school?
At which school? Like your regular high school or at UC Scout?
Yes, I think that's what they mean.
You can take it any, like if you can get it at your high school, like your regular high school, it's probably easier to do that, because if you're taking other APs, it's just simpler. But you can take it at UC Scout too. Like they have on their website, they have a sign up thing for like their AP test. So like for me, I took AP Calculus BC at like their center during my senior year.
And so the schools, if the schools don't let you take the exam, then you just do it with the AP, with the UC Scout. And
yeah,
are you able to send it to the colleges then? Like
yeah, it just shows up like when you take the AP test at UC Scout, it still shows up in your College Board account.
okay.
Yeah, so it all the tests that you take, no matter where you take them, it all shows up in one place.
Okay, so once we get the course from UC Scout, then we need to also enter the College Board, like we have to mention the course code or something.
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly.
No, I mean, if you take the AP course at UC Scout, do you also need to enter some information about that at the College Board account?
No. It like everything happens automatically. Like you have to do nothing.
Oh.
You just go there and take the test, and then automatically, like 2 months later, when they post scores, shows up in your College Board account.
I see.
Like if you don't do it well, I think you just can't hide it. This will always show up. You tried and this is what you scored.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Thanks.
So in UC Scout, like on-demand course, they give the percentage, right? So they don't give grades like A or B or C, whatever. They give like 90 or 95 or 98. Yeah. So how do the UCs calculate that percentage? How do they take it into consideration?
I'm not too sure how they take it. Like, do they take a 90 to 100 as an A? But on the application, there's a selection where you can do a letter grade or number grade, and it lets you input a number. But I'm not too sure if it's online or if you can even find it. I didn't exactly know if a 96 was like a A or a B. I just tried to score my highest that I could. But I'm guessing that a 90 to 100 is an A. It's like a regular grading scale. 90 to 100 is an A. 80 to 89.99 is a B. So it should be the regular grading scale.
So tell me, like, how easy it is to, suppose I enroll my kid to this UC Scout and he has very little knowledge of coding. Would he be able to do this Principles of Computer Science A course and score well? Or is it like he really would have to learn some languages? Like
which course? Computer Science Principles or Computer Science A?
A principal would not have a value. I think doing A would make a better sense, right?
Well, they're two different courses. Like Computer Science P doesn't focus on the actual coding. It focuses on how like I guess it focuses a little bit on different languages, but it's more of how like coding works and how like computers work. Computer Science A is more about language. It covers Java. You can learn it, like even if you know basically nothing, you can still do Computer Science A.
Oh, it is like
it goes from a very basic level to more advanced.
Oh, okay.
They start at the very basics, and at the end it does get complicated, I will admit. But since they start at the basics and they take you through each and every step, I think it's definitely manageable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. How do you prepare for an internship? It depends on the internship. For my internship specifically, although I knew Python, I was working with something called the Selenium library, which I never worked in the past. But once they told me that that's what I'd be working on, it was just, I went through a Udemy course real quick. High school internships aren't paid as much attention to as college internships are. So I had to self-study it completely. But at the end of the day, that was a good experience for me, I think. And I think every internship you have to prepare for differently. If I'm planning on going into CS, then would you recommend taking outside classes for coding? I think it's definitely a good idea to know coding languages. That'll help for your extracurricular activities, maybe. Maybe Java or Python. For FTC, knowing Java really helps. But other than that, like, you don't necessarily need to take outside classes. It's not like life isn't all about the classes. It is partially about the classes, but essays, extracurricular activities are important. But I think it's good to know languages. So if you don't know any languages, I think you should definitely look into learning Java or Python or something along those lines. Just whatever you enjoy. Maybe you enjoy like app development. You can get into something like React Native or Flutter, something like that. Yeah.
So I have a question. Can you compare between UC Scout and the Elite? Like there is a Elite open school, and then UC Scout also teaches this on-demand APs, right? So which one is better, like when compared to the teaching?
I'd say UC Scout is better. Because Elite Open School just gives you like a access code to like the course, and really it's just you doing it yourself. UC Scout, they do a very similar thing, but then also like the tests are proctored, and then like there's like office hours, and like you have an assigned teacher, and that teacher actually teaches. And also there's a great price difference. I think UC Scout was $400 per semester, and then Elite was almost 1,000. So
yeah, that's true. Thank you so much.
So the questions are kind of dwindling down right now, but I think we have a bit of time. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But before you all do leave or whatever, I wanted to make a quick, I don't know, not announcement, but so
one last question, like have you done any community college courses that will add to your transcript?
And I know you have to answer one of the questions somebody asked. And one more question that I want to know is, so somebody has done AP, or like my son prepares for AP, and then he thinks that he's not ready, but he has already registered. So is it okay if he doesn't go and give the test? Would it get reflected in the transcript that he was registered, but he never attempted the test?
Sorry, wait, should you catch that or?
Yeah, so like if he registered for the test, but then let's say he wasn't ready, and let's say he didn't show up to the actual AP test, what does it show when the scores come out?
Exactly, yeah.
I don't think I'm too sure, but I'm sure it's online. Oh, do you know, or?
Wait, sorry, could you repeat the question? Wait, Ayush, you can summarize this.
So suppose if he has a AP test, he's in 9th grade. He says he wants to do computer science AP, and I register him for the test. Maybe it happens in May, probably. So, and he's not prepared. He didn't study well, and he says he's not prepared. He doesn't want to give the AP next year in May, but he's already registered. Would it get reflected in the colleges, like somewhere that this person was registered, but he didn't go and gave the test, or is it?
I believe not. So I don't think so. So actually, I faced a similar situation in my freshman year where I was studying for my AP Computer Science state test. That was in May, but at the end of the day, I did not feel confident that I would get a 4 or 5. So what I did was in around April, I went and told my parents I don't feel confident in taking the exam. But then they pushed me a bit, encouraged me, and I ended up taking the exam and getting a good score. But I wanted to cancel it. So if you don't feel confident at the end of the day, there is an option to cancel the test. But College Board will ask for a fee to cancel the exam if it's pretty late. But once you pay the fee, I believe it will not be reflected in any records.
Okay, got it. Thank you. This is Nidhi. Ayush, so I'll wait for you and Rahul for that counselor thing whenever you will start.
Yes, no worries. We'll put out a message soon for sure.
Thank you.
There is
yeah. I can just go through chat if you want. It'll be might be faster. Some people hire counselors only for editing essays. Will that work? Or we need to hire a counselor 1 or 2 years in advance. So me and Ayush both hired our counselors in the summer of our junior years. And the main thing she helped us out with was essays. The main thing she helped us out, sorry, give me one.
Okay, I can speak while he's talking. Me and Rahul only got counselors for the summer of our junior year and then also part of our senior year. I don't think it's really not necessary to have a counselor before that, because your kid should really be figuring what they like to do in their extracurriculars and their courses and all that by themselves. The counselor really helped for the essays, like how to format it, what to include. Like Rahul said, the introduction and conclusion, all that stuff, the formatting, she helped us with all of the essays.
You like that, Aditi? Oh, of course, you guys got into very good college. Yeah. So Aditi Kabaria, you think she's a good one. Got it.
Yeah, we appreciate the help that she gave us.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to a different thing for everybody, every family. I think it's more of a family decision to make. Like, is it worth it for the price, right? So that's what, but yeah, I think I definitely do appreciate the help. I think we both do appreciate the help that she gave us. But yeah, when we went to her, it was mainly for essay writing, because also like, I'll come from a very honest perspective. Like if you do 1 to 2 years in advance, it's also really, really expensive. It gets to upwards of like $20,000. And by that time you're nearing what you would pay for 1 year's college tuition. And so, yeah, but again, it depends, changes based on every family. But I think extracurriculars and academics, eventually you can figure out by yourself. And then editing essays, it's what's most important from a counselor. You do not need to pay to get a high school internship, or at least I did not need to. Use your connections and you would not need to pay to get a high school internship. I think your parents, your uncles, aunts, they're the best ways. If they work somewhere, they can contact their colleagues. Just that networking is really important. Networking is something not only helpful in high school, but super important in college and probably for the rest of your life. But I don't want to forget the question about the community college courses. I did take a couple of community college courses. So there's someone who asked, would you recommend taking outside classes for coding? You can take community college classes for coding, because then you can end up submitting that to colleges as well. I took 2 CS classes, one where I learned Java and one where I learned Python, and I took one business course. The business course was just for fun. It didn't really relate to my major, but I was kind of interested in it, so I just took it. You don't always have to do everything for college. You can just do them for fun, and I think people should do that.
So where did you do that computer courses from, that community college?
Foothill College.
Okay.
Yeah, Foothill College. It's pretty local to Fremont, California. It's like 20 miles, 25 miles away, but the courses were completely virtual, so the distance didn't even matter.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Yeah. I think if you do courses at community colleges, you should aim to do it virtually just because it makes life a lot easier. Having to travel around is a pain.
Yeah. So I think, Rahul, there are two more questions.
Mhm.
One of the questions was, my son is transferring from private school next year and is doing pre-calculus right now as a freshman. So can you do AP Calc BC in sophomore year in public school?
What school are you from? Are you from Fremont Unified School District or a different school district? Fremont only. Okay. You're gonna have to argue to your counselor.
Yeah.
Tons of arguing. You're gonna have to be on your counselor's back. And at the end of the day, there's no guarantee whether it's gonna get done or not. You might not be able to take AP Calculus BC sophomore year because at American high school, at least, I think you have to be at least a junior to take it. For me, I wanted to take AP Physics 1 my sophomore year, I think. So I asked them like, if I did it outside, can I come in and then?
If you argue enough, I think you can. Even in my physics C class, which is a senior year level course, there was a junior that was from a completely different district. So it's possible. You might just have to work with a counselor.
You need to go talk to them every day. It's very at that point you need to put in a lot of effort in. But yeah. And then there's a question: if I plan on taking AP Physics directly in 11th grade, but obviously had barely any physics experience, is it easier or way too hard? I think you can do it without any practice. There's a really good tutor that I went to for AP Physics 1 and AP Physics C. Her name is Tanuja Iyer, and her contact information is in the tutoring opinions document chat. She helped me so much for AP Physics 1 and AP Physics C. Probably one of the best teachers I've had throughout my entire life. And yeah, I think you can take it without any prior experience, but if you ever do need help, she's a great tutor that you can look to.
Yeah. So all these tutoring opinions and all that are on our website. Dream big for college.
Can you suggest AP Spanish teacher too?
AP Spanish teacher, I actually don't know because I learned it completely at school at American high school. There's a really good teacher, Mr. Navarrete. If you get him, super lucky, but he teaches beautifully. But I'm sorry, I'm not too sure of any AP Spanish tutors.
Yeah.
About teacher for algebra 2, for 9th grade, he has geometry and algebra 2, maybe from Growing Stars, a good teacher that I can hire.
Yeah, Growing Stars is a really good company. I think tutors wise, my brother went to Growing Stars for pre-calculus, but he didn't go for algebra 2, and I didn't go either.
I did it for geometry and algebra 2. I actually had two teachers. One of them was Anup G.R. Chandran for algebra 2. And then for geometry, I think it was Rusana Shah. Yeah, I can put both their names in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I think they were pretty helpful to me. Getting good grades in that class and all that.
Yeah, I think.
Can you recommend for what is it? AP histories, any US history or European history for that? Can you suggest any teacher?
I'm not too sure if they offer that at Growing Stars, but I think here's a really important thing about Growing Stars. They let you switch your teachers around. So if you do something, sorry, that was horribly phrased. So if you have a teacher, you spend a week or two with them and you don't really like them, you can ask your education counselor. I think it's someone like that. Ask them to switch teacher.
Yeah. Growing Stars are not offering history classes.
Oh, okay. I'm not too sure about history classes, but I'll ask some of my friends if they went. I'll ask my brother and I'll ask him to ask his friends, and I'll let you know. I'll message you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is it worth it to take AP Spanish? I believe so. It is, because what it shows the college is that if you just take Spanish 1, 2, and 3, what it makes it seem like is you just did it just to get the foreign language requirement out the way. AP Spanish can be difficult, but when you take AP Spanish, what it shows the college is that you went all the way. You didn't stop in the middle. You went until you could. Mm-hmm. Can you recommend a teacher for chemistry honors? Chemistry, I think, is offered at Growing Stars. So go to Growing Stars and get a tutor there maybe, and then just cycle teachers until you find one you like. Maybe the first one you get is one you like. At a Growing Stars, Tanuja Iyer, She doesn't work at Growing Stars anymore, but that was my first teacher and she was amazing. So sometimes you could get lucky, but you might need to keep switching teachers till you find someone that you like.
Yeah.
I have a question. Like my son is studying in Pleasanton, so
Uh-huh.
he goes to Ahmedabad Valley High School. My school is not offering AP Physics 1. They are offering only physics, and directly they are going to AP Physics C. So it is a very ramp up studying AP Physics C. So what is your recommendation?
So you definitely can't do AP Physics C without AP Physics 1. AP Physics 1 is necessary. It's actually really interesting that the school doesn't offer.
Yeah,
AP
it is
Physics
not
1.
offering. Yes, yes.
So
I spoke with counselor, and the counselor said that if you wanted to do, you can do however you want. But our school is offering AP Physics C.
Yeah, so I think what you should do is AP Physics 1, since it's not offered at the school, do it at UC Scout or Elite. He should do that in his junior year.
Correct.
Probably.
Yeah. Mm.
And then Physics C he can do in his senior year at school.
So
Okay.
Sri Lakshmi, which school you said in Pleasanton is doing that?
Ahmedabad Valley.
Okay, okay, thanks.
There's a question. My son is doing AP Computer Science A as a freshman. So what other rigorous computer sciences courses can he do? The only other AP that's offered in the computer science area is Computer Science Principles. And if you're good with Computer Science A, Computer Science Principles is pretty easy course.
But like if you've done A, you don't have to do computer science principles because it's a lower course than A, right?
It
A
is, but I think it's a good idea to do it just to demonstrate your interest in computer science. It's a good idea to do it, but it's not. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to do both A and.
And it'll also give you you'll get a grade and then a GPA, slight GPA boost too.
Okay, thank you.
If the I have a question. Like if the major is computer science, then definitely we have to consider AP Physics and AP Chemistry too, right?
They're not directly related to computer science, but those are like super difficult courses that show the college like your academic rigor and like how much you can like handle academically.
Thank you.
Yes, if anyone has any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat or actually unmute. I know we've gone almost an hour and 45 minutes over, or 45 minutes over time. So, oh yeah, there's actually a few questions. Is it really any point taking rigorous courses in senior year as the college applications are done?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There is, because like although your applications are submitted, at the end they'll still receive, or so your first semester grades, you still put what classes you're taking for both the first and second semester, although you don't get like the actual grade yet. And it's important because if you're going from like, let's say 4, 5, 6 APs in junior year, and then going to senior year, you dial it down to like 1 or 2, that shows the college that you basically kind of gave up after junior year, and now since you already applied, you're not taking as many rigorous courses, and you're kind of slowing down or like taking a less academically rigor like schedule. So it's still important to take at least the same amount, if not higher. So if you took 4 in your junior year, you can take 4, or if you want, which is probably ideal, take like 5 or 6. So then that shows like some improvement.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's a question I'm responding to in chat right now, but I think we're taking care of that in direct messages. Oh, okay. Never mind. So is he entering his freshman year? So he's gonna be a freshman? I think freshman year is when it's important to get involved in extracurricular activities, because one thing they look at with extracurriculars is longevity. They don't want you to just do it. Like if I just do something only in my sophomore year or only in my junior year, then it's like I wasn't actually interested in it. I just did it for the sake of doing it. And freshman year is when like you get an opportunity to get involved. Sometimes when you get into your sophomore and junior year, some clubs don't want to take you in, some teams don't want to take you in because you're already a sophomore or junior. Maybe what I would suggest is I don't know if it's possible, but converting that internship into a summer internship instead of an internship during the school year. Focus on academics and extracurriculars during the school year. Summer is the time for internship research. Research can also be done during the school year, but so maybe if you can, I think maybe even better would be trying to handle academics, extracurriculars, and internship. But I think that is difficult because sometimes some students find it difficult to do the transition between middle school and high school, and the learning curve can be quite steep. So yeah, if you can try to convert into a summer internship, I think that would be the best choice. For summer,
Recently I've heard that a lot of like updates and news about like these courses in colleges, like they come on social media like Facebook or Instagram or something. So like, do you really think that is true? And like, should I be more active on those sites, or like, is it just like a waste of time?
Wait, for
Sorry,
those social media platforms for what purpose?
It's like, this gives you like news about like which clubs are available, or like a lot of useful things.
Yeah, Facebook, and you should probably have a Facebook and Instagram account for clubs at your school. I think American high school, at least, they do use Facebook and Instagram to publicize their events. For example, for robotics, we're publicizing our tryouts right now, and Facebook and Instagram was the primary ways to publicize as well as in school. But yeah,
Definitely.
you don't need to be super, like, you don't need to spend like hours a day on them, but I think, checking them occasionally is good to see for clubs. But yeah, okay.
If not, I think we can wrap up today's session.